Covered calls were closed out. Covered puts were deployed. Since we got a phenomenal drawdown at new levels, now I get more premium for those covered puts, and the covered calls were cleared. I cleared my covered calls a little early, to be truthfully honest. And I get a lot of texts in the afternoon saying, "Oh, Clayton, I didn't close my covered calls in the morning. I waited until the end of the day. All my covered calls for all my shares, and whatever strike prices they chose, they closed them toward the end of the day, and they were getting an extra 20, 30%. And I'm sitting there going, nice, but I was early. Darn."
Hey Ray, I think I found something similar to what you would actually like. I'm gonna post it in Trading Floor for you.
All right. While he's looking at that, we go over some of the news that's coming in. We've had news coming in since 5 o'clock this morning. First thing we've got is an air raid warning issued all over Ukraine. Okay. Bank of America CEO says they are predicting a mild recession. A mild recession. Are there calibers of recessions?
No, they're just trying to make up a new word.
Well, first, our administration wants to redefine the word recession because it makes them look terrible when we go into one. I get that. Well, no, I don't get the redefining part. I get it making them look terrible. That's their own fault.
Oh.
And then we've got, okay. International Monetary Fund's Georgieva says too early for U.S. Federal Reserve to back off interest rate increases. Okay, that makes sense to me. I probably butchered that name, by the way. Okay. Jerome Powell speaks tomorrow at 1:30. That's going to be exciting. We've got RIA reports Russian Foreign Ministry says says New Start nuclear arms treaty. Okay, who wrote this? Holy cow. New Start nuclear arms treaty still effective despite postponement of meeting and lack of inspections. Okay, think or swim. Your news is usually fantastic, but right now I have some grammatical errors here. Okay, Russia is telling U.S. that increasing U.S. involvement in Ukrainian conflict brings growing risks. Okay, so I guess they're just a little bit of a measuring contest there. See how that goes. All right, here's something that's relatively important. House price index for September is 11% versus 11.9% prior. House price index, so that was year over year, month over month. September for September is 0.1 versus 1.2 expected. House price index for September is 392.3 versus 392 prior. And then they have something about Redbook. Year over year, 10.4% versus 7.5%. My brain read that as Reebok, and I was about to just not read that because I don't care about Reebok at all. But White House says Biden convening congressional leaders to discuss legislative priorities through the end of 2022. Well, I'm just ecstatic to figure out what their priorities are and see if they align with, I don't know, getting our economy out of the hole. That would be great. I'm curious to see what they discuss and what they deem to be a priority. But other than all the news, market has not moved much. We had quite a volatile day yesterday. Yesterday was quite spicy. And open green. Look at pull up the 5 minute here. So we opened green as if we were going to fill the gap that was created from Friday of last week. And then we just dumped. I mean, we dumped, and we had a lot of news that came out at 12 o'clock that I posted on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Story, Reels, TikTok, whole 9 yards. And a lot of that news was correlated to inflation and statements that were very pro inflation going down, which I'm happy about and I'm excited for. And one of the major comments that was made during the meetings yesterday was that inflation was going to be close to 5.5 or 5% by the end of the year, which is tremendously better than what we were dealing with, back in August, May, June, around that time. It's tremendously better. So I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. That's a lot of improvement, which means we're going in the right direction. And we sold off aggressively. I mean, we just dumped all day. All day. I know that Michael and I were talking about some bear call credit spreads that we deployed earlier in the day. We're messing around with them, doing a little back testing, doing some trading, trying to figure out how those contracts move on if we have a week to 2 week expiration. I haven't done them in a while, so I'm just refreshing my memory, but obviously that trade worked out phenomenally. And covered calls were closed out, covered puts were deployed. Since we got a phenomenal drawdown at new levels, now I get more premium for those covered puts, and the covered calls were cleared. I cleared my covered calls a little early, to be truthfully honest. And I get a lot of texts in the afternoon saying, "Oh, Clayton, I didn't close my covered calls in the morning. I waited until the end of the day. All my covered calls for all my shares, and whatever strike prices they chose, they closed them toward the end of the day, and they were getting an extra 20, 30%. And I'm sitting there going, nice, but I was early. Darn. So I got a couple of phone calls later in the day, close to market close, saying, "All right, covered calls closed 89%," and I just went, "That's phenomenal. We like that." And I follow my rules almost to a T, to the best of my ability, and sometimes I need to let things run a little bit more because I'm missing out on moves that could get me an extra 20, 30%, which is a decent bit on those contracts. But that's all part of it getting better, right? So my biggest concern is I want the highest probability setup, and I want to make sure that I'm not losing any trades. And last month, I lost one covered call. Had to buy that back. All the rest of them were closed for profit. Same with the covered puts. And I stay in the 30 to 40 to 50% range for those covered calls, covered puts of the premium that I get credited. And I just scale up the contracts. So today, we have not moved much. We had an after-hours pop to the upside and a pre-market pop. Then we retraced pretty much all of it, and we're back down right at where we closed yesterday. So I'm very curious to see what the market's going to do when we open up in 7 minutes, and if it's going to do anything in response to the housing price index information we've gotten. But that's all for me. We've got a lot of people in the live call this morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. If you guys have any other points of view or anything you'd like to add about this morning, any trades you're looking at, what have you, let it run. Let it fly.
I guess I can provide my bias for the day. I seem to be doing that a lot. Yesterday I was pretty bearish, and clearly that worked out. I think today it's going to be not as big of a movement, but I think we will still see some downside. I think maybe 39.45 on the indexes, and then on SPY that would put us around 392.85. I think we'll go see those levels today, break them. I'm not sure if we're gonna bounce out of there or keep projecting through it, but I definitely think we will see some drawdown towards that level.
Okay, loud and clear. Loud and clear. I appreciate that. What else do we have? There's a ton of people in here this morning. What do we got? Somebody give me something. I know every single one of you all talk all day long. What's going on? Come on now.
Looking for Apple. It's projecting off of the supply from yesterday.
Okay.
It's also created a falling wedge. It's a bullish pattern, but looking to see a bounce around 144 and 143 before entering anything. See what it does there.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. I like that. Yeah, Apple pull up Apple real quick and look at that. Uh-oh. That fingered it. There we go. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, after consolidating, maybe we'll get. I mean, not much of a consolidation from a day trader standpoint. We've had quite a bit of movement on Apple. Well, I'm very curious to see what we do today. We've got a pretty tight range here from the high here, or I guess our shorter term resistance, and our low here, shorter term support. So I mean that could provide some clearly defined risk. That might provide some good trades on Apple. We get down to 143. We got one of two options. We continue down and break that support, or we bounce aggressively.
Right.
So,
That's what I'm looking for. See what it does.
Yep. Same with the resistance, right? Break out through resistance, both flag it out, or rejection. So, and either I think either
We're
way.
testing it again. We look like we're rejecting it in the pre-market already.
All right. Well, I'm going to just. So I've got them, so I know where Apple's at. I'm going to set alerts at the top and bottom of this little range that we're in. We'll see what happens at both those points. A little data collection. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else look at anything? Oh, my man chair. What's going on?
Oh, what's up?
I saw the mute, unmute, mute, unmute, mute, unmute.
Who does that for some reason? It's weird.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning to everybody else who's in here. Lauren, good morning. Lucifer, good morning. Rosen B, there was a ton of background noise. I was sorry, it was coming up on screen. I'll mute you in a second. Sir Johansson, good morning. Jack, good morning.
Good morning, Clayton.
How are you?
Good morning. Let me drop off. Good, man. Let me drop off my cats real quick, and I'll come back in and chime in.
Okay. All right. Well, stream's ended in 3 minutes, so you get done what you got to get done.
I'll chime after the stream.
Okay. Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Hey, can you take a look at Bank of America?
Absolutely.
Because I made a deal with God.
That's an old one. We haven't heard Bank of America in a little bit.
Oh, bank. Okay. So wow. So if I'm looking at this, Bank of America is providing me a clearly defined risk to both sides. I mean, we break above pre-market highs. That's a breakout if you're in a bearish position, and if we break below pre-market lows, then that's we're flushing. So if I want to go to the upside, if I want to go to the downside, whatever it may be, I've got some clearly defined risk here for either continuation.
My special started good for everybody.
Okay, sorry about that. So clearly defined risk on Bank of America, upside or downside. I mean, we've gotten a nice tight resistance here, support here. Might even be straddleable. I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing quite a bit. But obviously whatever you want to do is up to you, my good sir. But I think this is a good pick to look at for the morning next to Apple. I think they're both great picks.
Yeah, I've just been watching it because it's smaller. It's good for small account trading.
Absolutely.